right. Well, again, why am I have done so many of these and I never have a problem. And today, okay, I think here we are.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to Cafecito with United Latinas. I'm so excited to be having Jamie Goris with me today, my friend and extraordinary Latina. And I'm so excited to have a fun conversation about, there's so much we could talk about, but I think this topic of money, boundaries, familia, Latinas, I think is super important. And I think it's super valuable to all of us. So, Jamie, hi, welcome. Thanks for being here. And let's start with you telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, your career. Let's start there because it's such a great story.
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, first, I also just wanted to say thank you for the invite. I'm happy to be a guest. I really love working with you. Thank you for everything you do for the community. Love with everything that you're doing here in this space. A little bit of background on myself. I am an executive director, financial advisor at JP Morgan Private Bank. I've been in the industry for close to 17 years now. My entire adult life I've spent in this industry, primarily advising ultra high net worth clients on investing, lending, and sort of just building financial plans. And in the last couple of years, have also been focusing my time on working with Hispanic and Latino.
Did I lose you? Hello? Jamie? Hello? What happened?
Oh, there we go.
Okay, are you back? That was crazy. Oh my God, the world is possessed today. I have no idea. Oh my God, that was so weird.
We're still live.
We're still live. People, yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. But hopefully people listening to this and that will listen afterwards will come back and listen. I don't know what happened. Okay, you were telling us about you.
Yes, and hopefully you caught the tail end of that, but have been focusing my time on working with Hispanic and Latino clients, business owners, entrepreneurs, diverse women, also just kind of help them understand how to invest, how to preserve and grow their wealth. Most of the time they reach the point where they've grown their net worth and they're sort of just figuring out how to, preserve that and perhaps gift some of that wealth to their next generation. So that's what I focus on. Background, I'm first generation Dominican American. So my parents.
Wait, Jamie, stop for a second because I think we're going to maybe log back on because it's coming in and out and I don't know if it's me or you, and I would rather this recording be done right. So maybe I'll end the recording and start again.
Okay.
Because the connection is really bad. No, stay and see if I can just end the recording and start recording again, and maybe it'll be better.
Okay.
I don't know why this is happening. All right, Jamie, come back. I don't know if this is still recording. But anyway, let's try it now. Let's try again. and I'm really sorry because usually I don't have technical problems ever. But we're gonna see if I can figure it out now. And Iliana and Sandra, don't kill me. I don't understand. Anyway, your background in finance. Let's start with how you got into this and how you got started doing this.
Yeah, so I think I have a unique story in finance. I started my career as a teller at a branch in New York City. I didn't know that I wanted to be a financial advisor, but I remember joining as a teller in 2009 and kind of looking around and seeing that the leadership team had all worked their way up into those roles. And I thought to myself, here's a path that I think I want to take. And I did. I worked my way up within the consumer channel to the point where I managed 2 branches in the city. And then at that point, was considering moving over to the private bank. And I actually took a bit of a step back to be able to do that. So I went from a leadership position to essentially an analyst role within the private bank. 9 times out of 10, in order to be hired into those roles, you need to be right out of college with a degree in finance or an MBA. And they kind of took a chance on me. And I started on a large team at the time, all male team. And it was a interesting time back then, but I learned everything on that team with a trust and estate attorney by background. And then I went through several training programs in the private bank and eventually became an advisor myself and started to build a book from the clients that were too small or no one wanted to work with at the time.
Oh, that's so smart.
So, yes. So it was sort of like, this client only has X amount. They won't bring the rest of it over. So let's park them here. And so I was sort of going through this book of business that no one had the time or desire to want to do. And I was able to cultivate a book from that. And that was how my advisory career sort of started. And then I spent a lot of time also lending. So a lot of my background, I have expertise in lending, mortgage lending, anything you sort of think of, more complex lending needs. But I would say that has been my expertise. So it took a long time to get there.
But it's such a great story, right? It's such a great representation of like resilience, perseverance, and finding an opportunity, right? And a niche and building around that, which is so great. And also not stepping aside and saying it's a whole bunch of men and I can still do this. So, I think that's great. I think it's so. And how did that conversation go with your family? Because I know you and I have spoken a lot about this being first gen and first everything, right? And if I remember correctly, you're also eldest Latina daughter, right?
Yes.
Which you and I bond over, that being a very special role in life to be the eldest Latina daughter. It's a whole special world. So when you said to them, like, I'm going to do these transitions, or I'm going to go into banking and then I'm going to go into private wealth, did they even understand? Like, what was that conversation like?
No, not at all. I think my career journey, I've taken on myself. It was never a discussion really with family, with parents or anyone about which moves I should be making, because, like my father didn't finish high school and, my mother did go to college, but, in terms of career direction, I always sort of took it upon myself to make those decisions and then inform them afterwards. I think till this day, I'm almost certain, like my parents have a sense of what I do. They know that I work at a bank, but I don't think they know exactly what I do. And I think it's good. It's enough for them to know that I'm financially independent, that I can take care of myself, and that I work at a bank. Like that's all they know.
I mean, that's great information for them to know.
Right.
But yeah, it's always hard to explain certain things to people that don't have that kind of background, right?
Yeah.
Did you always enjoy math and finance? Was that always something you enjoyed?
What's interesting is I've always had a creative flair, but math was my top subject. But I never thought, what am I going to do with it? what will I do with it? I also, back in high school, I just remember thinking like I wasn't sure if I even wanted to go to college. So my parents, it's a funny kind of thing that they had the sense to push me enough to go to college, to go to a university, but they didn't have a a preset idea of what direction I should go in. So they had enough sense to do that, and I'm always appreciative of that. But back then I thought I just want to be financially independent. So wanted to get to the quickest way possible to that path. And that's why I started my career in finance. So, as soon as the door opened and I saw the opportunity, I kept going in that same direction.
That's amazing. So that leads me to another question, which I would love to hear how you define financial well-being. And I know it's a super big question and it's like a super big topic, but I think it's really important for the women listening to this to understand an expert like coming from you, what financial well-being could mean for them, could mean for you, or how you address that with your clients or educate people around that, because I think it's really important.
Yeah, it's such a broad conversation. And I think financial well-being is deeply tied to the lifestyle that you want to live and the life that you envision for yourself. What you do, how you spend, what you want to give to children, all of these goals need to have a plan attached to them in order to be achieved. So it really just depends on who you are and what you're looking to accomplish. So what you know about yourself. And then the second step to that is making sure that you're educating yourself on how you're going to achieve those financial goals. I think a lot of us, and I include myself in that, because it's hard if you don't have the education from parents or grandparents or anything, you don't have any wealth sort of passed down to you, and you're the first time creator of your wealth. Oftentimes you might reach a point where you're making the most money you've made and you don't know what to do with it, right? Or what direction to go in. And my best advice, if that is you, is to find a financial advisor, is to break through the fear of actually being vulnerable and disclosing your overall wealth, debt, whatever it is you might have going on, and being honest about what those goals are so that a financial advisor could help you with those different strategies to get to where you need to be. As an advisor myself, I thought I could manage everything on my own. And the truth is, life gets in the way. And suddenly you might be running up against, you don't have the time to make the appropriate choices. And if you're missing opportunities to be invested in the market, for instance, if you have long-term goals, you're missing out, right? So it's so important to have someone in your corner who knows what they're doing.
Okay. You froze on me again. I don't know. Jamie?
I'm here. Okay. I do have, so weird. The Wi-Fi looks like it's fully.
Yeah, on. So is mine. I don't even know what's going on. It's so strange.
Well, hopefully that, so I don't know, what was the last bit you caught there?
I caught that you personally realize that you can't do it all, which I actually think is something uh, really great that you bring up, because as a Latina and financial advisor and eldest daughter, it's sort of like I can do it all, right? I can manage my own money, I can manage other people's money, I can manage my life, I can manage everybody else's life. And I think it's really smart to say, um, you can be vulnerable with someone, and it's okay. And it's okay to have a conversation with someone. And um, I love always talking about practical, and you know this about me, about like practical tools and giving people like practical advice. But if people like, how do you even start finding a Jamie and having that conversation? And then we're going to shift into the little bit of the harder conversation that you and I are going to have. But I think this is an important part too.
Yeah, well, I would start with, if you have anyone in your life that is already financially successful, I would start by reaching out to that person and asking them if they have a financial advisor that they can refer you to. I always love a referral. And you could also walk in, so you can look up financial advisory firms. There are a ton of them. Obviously, I'm at JP Morgan, which is a fantastic one, but you can walk into a branch and ask to speak to a financial advisor. You can go online. There are so many, most of the banks. So you have banks and you also have robo advisors, right? But most banks will have an advisory arm. So I would walk into wherever you currently bank and ask to speak to a financial advisor. That would be my second step. And then you can also go online to find, a certified financial planner. There is a website for certified financial planners that will give you, if you type in your zip code, you should be able to find someone in your area. And those folks actually are a little bit different. They might be tied to a wirehouse where you could custody your assets and they could give you advice that way. But that would be ideal for someone who has a growing net worth. Maybe you have a business and you've got a lot of moving parts and excess cash you want to get invested, or you have a portfolio already and you want to have that reviewed.
Got it. That's great advice. So now let's move into some of our United Latina members have financial advisors and they're super successful and they're moving like you. And now there's a whole moment of pressure with our families.
Yes.
Right. And understanding our families and understanding being first gen and being successful. And how do you start to have those conversations? And what's that experience been like for you throughout your career as you moved from being a bank teller to being the successful private wealth manager that you are today, and having those kind of, I know there's, as Latinas, there's also a huge amount of guilt that we love to have for whatever reason, and sense of responsibility. And that's the reason I also brought up the being the eldest daughter, because that takes all of that to a whole other level.
Yeah, it takes it to another level. Well, it's not one conversation. So I'll just say the conversations with family have changed, I guess, quite a bit over time. And it's changed because I think as I started to climb up the corporate ladder, and a lot of the women on the podcast might relate, that once you start to grow and you have excess capital to share with everyone, like, you can have the shirt off my back, right? That's just how we are. We're raised to sort of the communist like mentality where, like, if I have it, you have it too, and I want to give you everything I have. And that was me for I would say the first 10 years of my career. I spent a lot of time giving to others, and I loved it. It was part of who I was at the time, and it was a little bit to my detriment, because you start to look around, and then everyone else is progressing and growing, but you're then not accomplishing the goals that you need for yourself. And so that, once I realized that, it took a lot of work and soul searching, and also understanding, what do I want for myself? It's understanding who you are I think oftentimes as Latinas, we're taught to take care of the bunch. You take care of the household. You take care of, if you're the oldest sibling, you take care of the younger siblings. If mom is out for the day, you're the backup. So
Yes.
Naturally, in any environment, you are going to do what you can to succeed and make sure that everyone around you is succeeding. I think the challenge with that then is, who's taking care of you, right?
Yes.
Because oftentimes when you take care of everyone else, no one thinks that you need any taking care of. And you don't probably show it, right? Because you're just worried about everyone else.
Yes.
It's a dynamic that is like self-serving in so many ways, and suddenly your identity is about everyone else but you. And if that is the case, right, there's so many holes in that. There's so many things that can go wrong if suddenly you want some support or something doesn't go well in your life, right? You don't have that support system that you would otherwise have if you didn't have codependent relationships, right? And
Right.
so it took years and years and years of work. Still today, there's work to be done every single day. But it took years of work of therapy, just a wonderful therapist, quite a few book podcasts, just following some wonderful leaders in the space, and just redirecting some of these relationships, or just, resetting some of these relationships, setting some boundaries that made sense for me. And sometimes it even was, perhaps taking some space and time away from family members, or even friends that I didn't have good boundaries with, to, level set expectations, because there was a new version of me that I wanted to step into, and that required certain things. Some people are ready for that, some aren't. And that's why sometimes time is important to be able to get to that space. But I'll give you an example. I had a family member who would ask me for money every other week. It was a small amount. I didn't mind it. I loved them dearly. Wasn't a problem, no problem, right? Went to a family gathering, and I don't know, it came up in conversation, and another family member mentioned that they had sent money to this first family member just recently. And I thought to myself, well, I send them money all the time. And then a third family member
Oh no,
came into the conversation, and I suddenly realized this person has been receiving 3 times the amount from 3 different, very entrepreneurial.
very
Entrepreneurial. And I think that they had a gambling problem.
okay.
And I communicated to them that I was no longer going to, continue to send money, and, and I'm sure they were fine, because they'll find another income.
They had other sources to reach out to.
We're upset. And it did change the relationship quite a bit, unfortunately. But I didn't want to be a part of the, it just felt deceitful. It felt like, and it also uncovered that the relationship was conditional.
Right. And there's so many things you said, Jamie, that I love. Like, I love the fact that you took, I think there's such gems of advice that you just gave out in that whole thing of stop, take a moment, pause, think about you, think about what works for you, what you want, what goals you want to accomplish with your financial well-being, with your situation, and seek help, which I think is so valuable. And I don't think enough Latinas do that, right? Seek whether it's a therapist, whether it's another advisor, not financial advisor, but like an advisor or a friend or someone that might have gone through something similar, have those conversations, but really take the time to think of what those boundaries are for you. And I think that's such valuable advice, Jamie. So thank you so much for bringing that piece of it. I think is so important, because I think we forget about that, right? Like, even when we set those boundaries, we're like, okay, well, can we set the boundary for them? And what does that person think? Or what does that family member? But no, we have to learn to set the boundaries for us, right?
Right. It's, I don't recall who said this. Maybe it was on Jay Shetty's podcast, but it's sort of like your boundaries are an opportunity to not to cut people off, but to in fact find a way to keep them in your life. So it's, how can I maintain this relationship in the way that works for both of us? That boundary is not meant to keep us apart. It's meant to actually bring us closer together, because we are better understanding what our needs are. And that has been, it takes time to get to where you may want to be, but I'm a big advocate for figuring out what you want your relationships to look like, communicating that, and also understanding that not everyone is to be ready for a full-on boundary. So you need to be prepared for a little bit of tug and pull here and there until you find the right boundary for the both of you. But I think as Latinas, we have, like, you know, our work is cut out for us sometimes.
Yes.
You have to let go a little bit of the identity. You know, I'm the fixer, I'm the solver, I'm the lead. I can do everything, and that can take a while to get to that point sometimes.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's why we have someone that texted that this definitely resonates with them as the eldest daughter, and that it's kind of like putting the oxygen mask on first. So thank you for that comment that we got in LinkedIn, because that's so true. I think we forget about that. But I think that, again, it's taking that time to say, what do I want? What does my financial well-being look like? What is my relationship with, what is my personal relationship with money, right? Like, I'm sure, Jamie, as your career was moving on, those questions came about for you too. Like, what is your relationship with money? How do you want to handle your financial well-being? And then how does that create money and family and boundaries from there?
Absolutely. I've also been exposed to all sorts of family dynamics, you know, from families that have wealth, and, you know, the children, they don't educate the children, so the children, you know, spend it all.
Yeah.
And then I've been exposed to some wonderful families that have taught their children how to have boundaries and how to create their lives and utilize their financial wealth or their wealth in ways to enrich their lives, but not just like monetarily, just in other ways, right? So whether it's gifting to charity, or, you know, just thinking strategically about building a business rather than just spending it all, you know? And so it all can be done. I'm so grateful to have sort of grown up in this industry and have that exposure, and to be able to teach that then, or pass that down, or just to even share it with my clients who are first-time wealth generators.
That's amazing. So I could talk to you for hours, as I have in the past when I see you. But I always love to leave practical tips and tools, because it's, you know, who I am and what I do. So if there's like one or two really practical pieces of advice for other United Latinas that are struggling with the family and the boundaries, and some of the family members looking at them as, you know, the financial bank, what would be some of that sort of takeaway advice to give them?
If you're struggling with boundaries, a lot of what I mentioned earlier, just stop, figure out what you want first. What you want your relationships to look like. I like to write it down. Each one of them. What do I want this to look like? Envision each relationship, envision what the future you want it to look like, and then take the action, have the difficult conversations, you find a mediator. And then if you haven't, group therapy is really, really helpful, I think, to talk through some of those dynamics. There's quite a few of them. I listen to there's quite a few podcasts, but I think it's Overshare. Dr. Naomi has great group therapy that could be incredibly useful, and you can join some of that. It's free. And it's a great opportunity to just speak to other women that care about women and give great advice.
That's amazing. And so, like I said, Jamie, thank you so much for being here. And I could talk to you forever. And I know I'm so sorry of all these technical difficulties. If this doesn't work, we're going to come back. We're going to bring Jamie back if this didn't record properly. I promise people, because she's got a lot of amazing, insightful, incredible things to say. Jamie, if any of United Latina members want to find you, want to reach out, is LinkedIn the best place to find you? Did I lose her completely? Jamie? Hello? Okay, well, we might have lost Jamie completely, but you can find her, Jamie Goris, on LinkedIn. And I'm going to thank everybody for listening and for being here. And like I said, if there's an issue with this recording, we will bring her back. So thank you so much for joining us.